Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to episode 149 of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. So today we have another special guest, third guest in a row. And this is actually the second guest that is from the Chicago area, and it is my friend Jeff Serafin. This is week 2 of the Chicago Takeover of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. I didn't explain it last week, but I had the opportunity to kind of train for a week out in Chicago, and I got to train at my 2 favorite schools to train at while I'm out there, New Breed and then Serafin Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that is who we are interviewing today. That is Jeff Serafin. I believe the last time he was on a year plus ago, we talked about how, at least in the intro, I mentioned that Jeff is someone I consider one of the hidden gems in jiu-jitsu. And he's a little less of a hidden gem anymore with all of the success that his student and I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show guest, Chris Wojcik, has had. So for those of you guys who don't know, Chris just placed 4th at ADCC West Coast Trials. This was the largest division in grappling history, and he placed 4th and just had an amazing performance. And also, really cool, he was on the Jiu-Jitsu show, the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show before he was famous. How exciting is that? How cool is that? And so is Jeff. And so these two are going to continue to grow in popularity. And so I'm so excited to share these next 2 episodes over the next 2 weeks with Jeff and Chris. Today with Jeff, we're going to talk a lot about training schedule, a lot about longevity, and his views on where jiu-jitsu is going. Because if you listen to the show a while back, the last time I had Jeff on, he had some pretty accurate predictions, and I would assume that this will be no different. I think you guys are really going to love this episode. Without further ado, before I jump into the episode, let me just give a special shout out to our producer, Bryce Allen of Allen Bros Jiu-Jitsu. He helped me with the guerrilla podcasting that we were doing while we were in Chicago. We basically built a podcasting studio in our Airbnb and scheduled guests and did 24 hours of recording. And so that would not have been possible if it was not for Bryce Allen of Allen Bros Jiu-Jitsu. Super, super helpful. And if you guys need somebody young and upcoming, or a young and upcoming group of guys to follow, be sure to follow the Allen Bros Jiu-Jitsu Instagram. Yeah, it's really good. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this interview with Jeff Serafin. Jeff, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Feeling good. Hard training. Now ready to go.
How do you feel after, to just put it in context, we just did 7 a.m. class, 7 to 8, really, really hard training, a lot of specific training at, what, 38?
38, yeah, almost 39.
Almost 39. How do you feel from that?
I feel great. I feel the healthiest I've been in since I was 22, 23. Good hard training every day, good schedule, good diet. So, I feel great.
What kind of schedule are you looking at week to week?
So we do 3 hard morning sessions, the 7 a.m.s, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I teach every night. And then I do a bunch of privates throughout the day. And then I teach Saturday mornings. So I do 6 days a week, twice a day, Monday through Friday. Sometimes 3 times a day, Monday through Friday. And then I take Sunday off, Saturday evening off. So I have time to recover for the next week. And I'm on the mat a lot, and I'm smart with my trainings. Right now, like in terms of we do the hard focus training, a lot of positional sparring. I don't do a ton of something we've focused on in the last 6 months is we don't do a ton of just sparring live. Just we're gonna roll for 15 minutes. It's 2-minute goes positionally. It's 2-minute goes wrestling. It's 4 minutes goes wrestling. And then we do once a week. We do our kind of more open mat where we're just gonna come in and roll. But I think that focus training, it really pushes your specific techniques that we're working on for specific matches, keeps you in good shape, but also you're not getting in as many crazy scrambles to where you're gonna see the injuries, or you're getting into that 6 minutes, 7 minutes where you're getting tired and you post wrong and you hurt your knee, you hurt your elbow. So I think it gives you that real good combination of smart training, get you in great shape, but keeps you healthy through the whole time.
That and very technical training too.
Very technical training, exactly.
How do you choose what to work in those specific trainings? Because that's something I've always struggled with when it comes to having a good specific training regimen, is running out of stuff to work or whatever.
What to focus on. So we always, in no-gi, when we're focusing on no-gi, which we have been a lot for ADCC Trials, a lot of super fights, we always focus a lot on wrestling because that's going to get the cardio component. It's going to get everyone ready. So there's almost always a wrestling component. Our warm-up is always wrestling based, and usually do live scrimmage wrestling with ADCC style focus, even if we're not training for ADCC. We just feel it's the best balance of wrestling, jiu-jitsu, cardio. And then we try to alternate. So usually one day a week we do a leg lock day. So that's a day, since we're doing a lot of no-gi, focusing on positions like saddle, double outside ashi, 50-50 depending on the day. We try to kind of cycle through those positions. Then we usually do a positional day where we'll do things like front headlock or turtle, flattened half guard. And then we do a day where it's a little bit more guard pass focused. So we'll start like seated versus standing, kneeling versus standing, in a half guard position, so that we're hitting some positional stuff, like specifically like the passing, specific things we think are important for no-gi, like wrestling up, the leg locks. And then depending on the rule set, like if we're getting ready for EBI, we've had a lot of guys doing EBI tournaments. We'll usually do a day of EBI rounds, so we'll do a lot of back and spiderweb positions. So we look at what we have coming up on the comp schedule, what is a specific rule set, and then kind of build from there. And then again, since there's been a lot of no-gi, wrestling and leg locks are always kind of going to be the top of the heap in no-gi, and then the positional stuff will be based on the specific rule sets or the opponents. Chris, one of our guys, was getting ready for Dave Garmo, so we did a lot of guillotine defense, front headlocks, because Dave Garmo has a world-class guillotine. Now that we're past that, we're not going to probably do front headlock for a while, just because it's not as high on the priority list for us.
So if you were going to use that, so that's you're prioritizing from the feet, you're prioritizing leg locks, prioritizing front headlock. Obviously, the main positions that people lose matches from in no-gi.
Yeah.
What would you shift if it was gi training?
So gi, we'd focus more on positions where it's about connection. So one of the principles we train a lot in the gi is the connection, is that guard passing entry position. So, standing against the seated position where, like, I pull guard and you're able to break the grips, and now we have to enter. You're entering in for your knee cut, you're entering in for your toriando, and I'm trying to get connection. So we really want to work on that isolation, because at the high levels, if I can get my 2 hands and 2 feet connected to you before you get your grips, it's going to be very hard for you to pass the guard. If you're able to get through those positions and get to a collar and a knee, or get a foot and a sleeve, you're going to pass my guard most of the time. So we do a lot of the connection drilling when we put on the gi. We do a little bit more closed guard, because obviously that becomes so much more of a tough position to deal with in the gi, especially for guys who are up on points and may want to stall. Where no-gi, the closed guard's a little limited, so we don't drill a lot of closed guard. And then we drill a lot more from positions like side control, where you got to worry about knee and belly, guys tying you up in lapels. Where again, in side control, no-gi, bad position, we don't want to be there. But with the sweaty, with the buggy chokes, all these other things, you're not going to see a lot of control from no-gi. But in gi, you get side control, you get shoulder pressure, you have a collar grip. It limits my game. So positions that we feel are more gi focused or more important in the gi realms will hit more, where in no-gi we don't have to deal with those same things. So we just kind of change a few positions here and there. And obviously on the feet, it becomes a lot more about grip fighting as opposed to hand fighting, some more throws and trips as opposed to the straight wrestling.
Who do you like to study when you're looking at jiu-jitsu? Let's say, first, we've been talking about training method. Let's say training method. Who do you look to for training method? Do you go to other sports? What are kind of your thoughts on it?
I mean, so like, I think that I don't really study anybody else when that. It comes up, I've been doing jiu-jitsu almost 25 years and coaching for 15. So I feel I have a good understanding of what my athletes need. And then it's talking to them. My guys who compete a lot, Chris, Jack Paul, Ramsey's, Mel's one of our girls, we kind of talk about what's getting ready. What do you guys feel the strongest? What do you feel the weakest in? What do we, this tournament coming up, what do we need to focus on? And listening to your athletes, especially when they're experienced, like we kind of all have a feeling of what we want, and we kind of do it as a group, figuring it out. Like me and Chris will talk a lot about, hey, what positions do we want to work this week? Hey, who's coming up? Hey, Mel's got this IBJJF tournament, so let's focus on this for her. Jack Paul's got this tournament. So we don't want to look at a ton of other people to figure out how to train. We did take some ideas, like after the East Coast Trials for the ADCC, we looked at some positions we felt we need to work on, and we're the strongest. Chris goes and trains with Dante Leon a good amount, and talking to Dante about what positions he thinks are really important for the ADCC style rule set, because we'll always take advice specifically for people we train with and kind of trust. Where if I'm just going to watch, Danaher or somebody, great jiu-jitsu, but I don't have any connection with him, and his methodology is necessarily going to be the same as mine. Not that mine's better or his isn't great, but like I want to base my training based on what I feel my athletes need, what I feel really is the strengths and weaknesses of our team, and people who train with us and be like, hey, we want to work this, we need to work this. Hey, Chris trains with Dante. Dante tells me he needs to work on this. That's that firsthand advice that I really take more than just, hey, I'm going to watch what this guy does on YouTube and think, oh, I want to add that to my training or my game. I don't really have a connection with that. So not that I can't learn from that way, but I want to kind of know from a firsthand source or somebody who really understands me, my team, my athletes, as opposed to just, oh, this guy's a famous jiu-jitsu guy, I better listen to him.
That makes really good sense. Have you always looked at jiu-jitsu that way, or was there a shift for you?
Well, I think, when I started teaching full-time and starting to develop my athletes, as a coach, you have to kind of start figuring out, how do you want to teach? What are you basing your curriculum? What are you basing your methodology on? And, I always had good coaches and good training partners. And like most coaches, they were kind of teaching their strengths. I'm good at this guard pass. I'm good at this position, and you kind of have to, because again, you're going to teach things you do that you're good at. You have good success with. And I started looking at to be as a coach, I didn't want a carbon copy of me. Like, I didn't want 20 guys who played my exact game, because I have unique attributes. My students have unique attributes. So I figured I wanted a game that I'm going to teach the things that I think are the most effective for jiu-jitsu, even if they're not the things that I necessarily do the best. And I need to get better at them. And I want to basically, my years of experience are going to say, hey, I think these type of guard passing is the best thing to work for gi or for no gi. This is the leg lock game I think it's the most effective. This is the kind of guard game I'm going to be most effective with. And so even though it might not be my specific game, this is what if I was taking a good just white belt or blue belt, where I think for long-term success this will be the most important thing. So just analyzing competition jiu-jitsu, looking at my own game in the mirror, what things I think I'm the weakest at that I want my students to be better at, and then develop that game based on that. So it started changing kind of how I taught, as opposed to, okay, I'm really good at this half guard Kimura game, I'm going to make all my students good at it. I'll teach it, but I want to make them say, hey, this is what was the kind of the pitfalls I ran into playing that game. And I want to make them not fall into those same pitfalls, because I want them to be better than me and more diverse than me, and I want to have a kind of more high-level overall game, because I'm going to be a coach that's going to be there every step of the way, saying, hey, from white belt to black belt, we're going to slowly develop and create our own game that's going to be the best blend of what I do, what I think some of the best guys and girls in the world do, and things that I think are being lacking from other people. And that's what, I've really been focused on for the last 10 or so years as a coach.
What shift have you seen in the last 10 years?
With our guys or jiu-jitsu in general?
Just with your guys.
We've really put an emphasis on stand-up. I think, I had good like wrestling and stand up when I was training, because I fought MMA. So I was always confident in it, but it was just much more like, I need to take the guys on an MMA, so I will, but I was always a guard puller in competition, because I felt like the risk reward of the amount of energy and the amount of risk shooting or going for throws, where a lot more of my students now are much more confident in their feet wrestling or doing judo, being able to force the person to pull guard. Because, I played guard a lot, and it's great, but you often hear, when you're a white belt, blue belt, you fall in love with the guard, you're going to win from the guard, and then get to the higher levels, it's hard to win from the guard at a black belt level. Yeah. Especially no-gi. Where if you can get good at staying on top, being on top, and being comfortable top and bottom, you're going to have a better success. So I feel so many more of my blue belts and purple belts, even who never wrestled, who never did judo, are so much more comfortable on the feet and are taking their opponents down, forcing guard pulls, being on top. That's a huge thing. I feel like our team has very good leg locks, so I feel our team has generally any belt against any match, we feel we have a leg lock advantage, so we can control that aspect of the game, and that goes along with being on the top. If you have dangerous leg locks and you can be on top, it's hard for someone to play guard against you, because they don't want to pull the feet out, and underneath we're trying to wrestle up, we're trying to get to the legs. And basically kind of forcing people to play into that game, which when I was like, again, when I was a pro belt, brown belt competing, I was much more, I'm going to pull guard, I'm going to stand on my back, I'm going to look for submissions, and either I'm going to submit you or you're going to hold me down. And, I was very effective with that game, but I feel like our guys and girls now who are competing are just at a much higher level of jiu-jitsu that's going to work at any level, any rule set, because they're kind of dictating where the fight goes.
So is there any way, you said just kind of the structure of your system, it kind of started with, I looked at jiu-jitsu. Yeah. I looked at the competition, I looked at what was happening. Yeah. Is there anywhere that you see technique-wise, strategy-wise, jiu-jitsu going that maybe people might not see coming? Well,
I think you're really going to see, and I'm not the first saying, a lot of people are saying, I think you're going to see a big split gi and no-gi. I think they're becoming two different sports. And I think, the no-gi game is becoming an incredibly wrestling-focused system, and it's going to be, a lot of time who the better wrestlers is going to win that, depending on the rule set, obviously. If we're talking EBI or true sub only, it's going to be different than ADCC or even the IBJJF. But I think it's just so much more is going to be good wrestling. It's going to be putting, controlling who's on top. The top person is going to be more an advantage. It's almost like you're seeing in MMA. Like in the old days, Royce Gracie could pull guard and submit guys. No one knew jiu-jitsu, no one knew how to grapple. And I think that's like, again, in the lower belts of no gi and even gi, you can get away with that. At the high levels, person who's on top is going to win most of the time. Now, again, you don't necessarily have to wrestle. You might wrestle up. You might use leg locks or submissions to sweep and come on top. But I think the no gi game is going to be really focused on being on top, getting to good smashing positions, getting to be kind of a dominant, almost like MMA style grappling position. Where I feel gi is going to go kind of the opposite way. You're going to see more people becoming really technical guard specialists, because being on the back is harder at that level. But if you can come up with all these very intricate lapel systems, intricate sweeping positions to where, 50-50 positions to where you're tying your opponent up so that wrestling and that movement is taken away. And now it's going to be this slow grind to get grips. And now you're just trying to off balance and get tilts and get sweeps and get back exposures. And again, those techniques are not going to almost at all align anymore. And again, you're still going to have guys who are going to be great at both, because, if you're a great athlete and you're a great grappler, you're going to train for a no-gi tournament and do well. You're going to train for a gi tournament. But at the ADCC level and the black belt gi level, I don't think we're going to see as much overlap between guys who are both black belt gi world champions and ADCC champions. And maybe guys like Mika and Ty, who, finals the gi this year in the Worlds, they may also be finalists in ADCC, but I think they're going to be more of the rarity. And also, you're looking at their gi game, it's much more kind of looking like no-gi than it is what you're seeing from some of the other more gi specialized guys who are looking for much more intricate 50-50 positions, tie-up positions. Again, I don't think that's a super outside the box thought, but I think that it's really just going to be a split. And I think there's going to be even sub-splits to where there's guys who only train sub-only, only guys who do the EBI systems, to where it's going to be so many different little subsets of a niche sport already that it's going to be almost like, I'm the best EBI guy, I'm the best true sub-only guy, I'm the best ADCC guy, I'm the best gi guy. So it's going to be almost like you have to find your niche and what you're going to actually train for.
Where do you see spectator-wise, kind of, if you have any thought on that, where do you see that going with jiu-jitsu?
I mean, I would love jiu-jitsu to be a spectator sport. I don't think it ever will be. It's too hard to watch it and not understand what's going on. So if you don't train it, I can't imagine. Like I have my wife, she's watching, random like a WNO show or the ADCC trials, especially if our students or friends are fighting, and like she'll watch it for a few minutes and if it's someone she knows, she's interested. But if it's like, oh man, Gordon Ryan's fighting Felipe Pena, she doesn't really care. And most, I have friends who have been trying to get to watch jiu-jitsu or do jiu-jitsu for 25 years. And again, they'll watch this and here and there. And if it's like me or again, a friend, they'll come out to a fight to win to watch, and they'll have fun for a little bit. But it's a real hard sell to them. And if you do something like Fight to Win, or like this year's ADCC is going to have huge production and it's going to be really over the top, and a small window for a few people to watch. But I think it's a tough sell. And the amount of different rule sets, I think, is a hard thing. Like if I'm telling this guy, hey, we're going to watch some grappling, and that, you remember that show we watched last week? The rules are completely different today. If I don't submit this guy, now we're going to start and he's going to be on my back. And now it's kind of 2 minutes there. And okay, next time we're going to watch a tournament, it's sub-only. This match might go 3 hours. And then this next tournament's ADCC, and there's no points, and then there's points, and there's overtime. People are like, I don't know what I'm watching. So,
and now they're wearing gis.
And now they're wearing gis. And now there's advantages. And what's an advantage? And so I think that's the hardest part. It's hard enough for us who train to keep track of all these rules. So if you say, hey, Joe Schmo on the street, like, watch grappling, and it's not just like a highlight of 5 minutes of cool submissions and throws. I would love there to be something, but I think we'd have to have a standardized rule set with a much kind of more well-defined, hey, this is what the rules are at most tournaments. This is points. This is not points. When are there points? When are there not points? Is there an overtime? Is there not? So people can understand what is grappling as a rule set. And like they always talk about grappling at the Olympics. How are we going to go to the Olympics if there's no unified rules? Which rule set are they going to use? Because like I love ADCC, but the half points, half no, in the finals it's -1 for pulling guard. In the regular matches, it's not. That's confusing for people. And it's like, why, is there a standard rule set throughout the tournament? And if there's not, you're going to be like, what are we actually like? Who's winning and who's the best guy here? So it's hard to show that to people. We don't have that kind of standardization.
As a spectator, I know you're a huge fan of jiu-jitsu. As a fan of jiu-jitsu, what would be your favorite unified rule set?
So so out of the current rule sets that are being played right now, I think I like ADCC the best.
Yeah.
I think when you watch ADCC, part of it's the level of people competing at ADCC, whether it's the trials or the main show. But I think it's the, watching the trials this year, even the divisions I had no rooting interest in, there were some amazing matches. And I think that this year's ADCC is going to be the best grappling tournament ever. I think the rules play to that. But at the same time, when we get to the finals and there's a negative one for guard pulling and you have two jiu-jitsu guys who aren't that great at wrestling for 20 minutes and no one does anything, man, that's a hard sell for me. That's a hard sell for guys. So one of the rule sets I used to like and I competed at when I was young, and it used to be a common rule set, but no one uses it anymore, is the Gracies used to have a rule set where it was a sub-only match. I shouldn't say a sub-only. It was a no time limit match, and it went to either submission or the first person to 15 points.
I love that.
So, if me and you were fighting and I keep passing your guard, I'm going to win by points, but I can't get one takedown or one guard pass and stall. I have to continue to score. And if you let me pass your guard 5 times, yeah, you can say, oh, I didn't submit me, but I passed your guard 5 times. And you had plenty of time. You could submit me. If you couldn't pass my guard, we go for a long time, to where you can have that kind of sub-only mindset where, hey, if a guy passes my guard once or I give up one advantage, I don't just get stalled out. But at the same time, I got to push the pace whether I'm trying to submit you or whether I'm trying to attack. And that's a rule set you could do gi or no gi. It rewards takedowns, it rewards passes, it rewards control, but also gives me a little freedom to shoot attacks because, again, one guard pass or one back take or one takedown doesn't mean I've lost the fight. I'd love to see more people kind of play with that rule set like that it can kind of pull in some sub-only guys, pull in some IBJJF guys, pull in some ADCC guys, and let's say, hey, if we can have a 45-minute match, but those guys would really have to be stalling to make it go 45 minutes. Because if you watch like the Kyle Chambers, Isaac match, or the Gordon Felipe, when you put those takedowns in and some guard passes and some back takes, all of a sudden a guy has 8 or 9 points. Now there's some onus on both guys. Oh, if I get one more guard pass, I win. This guy can't let them pass the guard. I better start attacking or catching up. I think it would take away some of the kind of like, I'm going to wait 3 hours going like this. Yeah. And hopefully you get tired because, hey, if you get my guard pass 3 times, I'm in trouble. So I would love to see a rule set like that.
That makes sense to me. That is always my argument about no points. Yeah. Is sometimes there's just no incentive to do anything. No. Especially when there's no time limit either. You could, if you have a great bottom side control, you could lay in bottom side control and it's boring. Nobody cares.
And even like EBI, I've been the commentator for a few of the Midwest finishers and coached a bunch of people on and you'll have guys a minute into a 10-minute match and they realize, oh, this guy's just way better at me. So I'm just literally going to avoid submissions for 9 minutes to get to overtime. And it's like, I like the idea of EBI, hey, we need a submission. If nothing happens, let's go to the back of the spider web. But then it becomes that artificial. Like if both guys are really trying to finish for 10 minutes and if nothing happens, hey, then we go to the back. That would be a cool system. But literally like, oh, this guy's better than me. I'm just going to avoid him. I'm going to run away. I'm going to stand on my feet and push him away. Okay, let's get to overtime. It's like, well, what's the point of the sub only if you're literally going to try to just avoid grappling and get to an overtime that's artificial? And we need something that's more like you have to grapple while you're out there to see who the better grappler is. That's what we need in the sport.
I totally agree. I think that some people's mindset just is that. So it doesn't matter what rule set they're in. Exactly. They're there to find out who the better grappler is. You see 2 guys and it becomes really fun. Yeah. But most of the time, that is the exception and not the rule. 100%.
And again, this is a sport. If there's money on the line, if there's a gold medal on the line, people are going to game the sport, no matter the rule set. There's no perfect rule set. People are going to game it. People are going to figure out ways, especially when it becomes more prominent, to make that rule set work for them. They're going to specialize in it, and that's just the nature of sport. In football, people, coaches are coming up with, crazy new plays or crazy new ways to throw the other team off because, again, it's about winning first and foremost. And again, if we're going to treat it as a sport, which it's becoming as opposed to the martial art, we have to realize that. But we want to make it as hard to game the system, and we want to keep the rules, not banning moves or banning strategies, but like incentivizing attacking, punishing, stalling, and we need to figure out the best way to do that. And again, I think something where points, but with a longer time limit and with more incentive to attack, I think is the best balance between them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I could see Richie's head nodding up and down behind you like, yeah, we need something better.
Exactly.
So just wanted to, and I'll ask you, I'll get to interview you both today, so I'll get to ask you both kind of this, but I wanted to just take like a step back right before ADCC West Coast Trials, when you and Chris are kind of looking at, hey, Chris needs to have a good performance, wants to have a good performance at this. What are your thoughts in the lead up to that? What's your training kind of like? And then seeing how big the divisions are. What are you looking at in the lead up to that?
Well, so like going into that, like when Chris fought the East Coast Trials a few months before, he was coming off a rib injury, so he barely got to train for the tournament. And he's like, I'm going out there anyway. I want to push it. He's young, tough. And, he fought fine. He submitted his first guy, ran into Placido Santos and was winning, just got caught in a guillotine. But it wasn't the best representation of him. And mentally, I think Chris is a pretty resilient kid. But, he was a little down because I think he knew he didn't train and couldn't be as healthy as he was. So going to West Coast, we knew it was going to be bigger. We knew it was going to be a harder trials. But I felt Chris got healthy. And our goal was just basically the training we did today is what we did every day getting ready for it. Hard wrestling, varying times, getting his cardio ready, getting his wrestling confident, getting our leg lock game to where we felt like we could leg lock with anybody in that division because we knew that in ADCC rule set or no-gi in general. And then we hit some specific positions that we knew were important for that rule set. Turtle is a huge one for ADCC. It's one of the most important positions because if I shoot a takedown and I have turtle or you shoot a takedown to me, or the guard pass where if I don't stay flat for that 3 seconds, the turtle is incredibly important. So we hit a couple specific positions like turtle, focused on wrestling and leg locking. And the goal was just allowing him to get to the kind of the peak of where he's going to perform. I felt going in, and I think people are seeing now that Chris, if he performs where he can, he's one of the best guys in the world. And he has a very unique game of, he's a good wrestler. Wrestling in high school in Illinois is a tough state. He's not a world-class wrestler, but he's a very good wrestler. And his style of wrestling is good for jiu-jitsu. He's very hard to submit. He has a good gas tank. He has some of the best leg locks in the world, and they're getting better. And he just is a very gritty performer. And I just felt like if he goes out there healthy and gets the positions he wants, gets to his wrestling, gets to his wrestle ups, gets to leg isolations, and gets to his guard passing if someone's not going to wrestle with him, he can beat anybody in the world. And knowing that he was going to have this giant division and there were some killers in it, it was just, hey, let's go out there and worry about what you do. Don't change your game plan because you're fighting Kody Steele, or don't change your game plan because you're fighting, Kieran Cookchick. Just go out there what you do every day in training with me and your training partners, and you can beat anybody here. And he had, he went out there and performed, and, he out wrestled guys like Kody. He passed guard against guys like Kieran. He get leg lock and leg scrambles against some of, Danaher and Gary Tonin students, and just showed his system is as good in almost any aspect as anybody on that scene. And I think that for Chris, it's always that mental confidence of believing he's as good as some of his training partners believe he is. And when he does that, he can beat anybody in the world. And we saw it at ADCC.
So when you have an athlete like that, when he shows up, he is one of the best no-gi guys in the world.
Yeah.
How do you help mentally? How do you help with that confidence?
Just tell it to him. Sometimes an athlete, you just need to hear, dude, you can beat this guy. Like, he was going to fight David Garmo this weekend, and one of the things I was stressing to him is Dave's a killer. I've been coaching against and watching Dave compete since he was a purple and brown belt. Guy's just a savage, great grappler, super tough, hard-nosed, typical Midwest grappler, good wrestling, good leg locks, everything else. So, we respect Dave a ton. He's awesome. But I just, I felt like, Chris, you're just the better grappler than this guy. I think you can wrestle with him. I feel your leg locks are better. I feel you're just, in this point of your career, you're just getting better every day. And, if we play our game, we can beat this guy. And, so, that mental, just telling him that so he hears that on a regular basis. And then 2 is putting him in positions to where, hey, Dave Garmo has world-class guillotines. We're going to try to guillotine you every training session, every scramble. And, when we're training our leg locks, I'm not going to try to counter leg lock you. I'm going to try to pull out. I'm going to try to slap your head. I'm going to try to make it dirty, and I'm going to try to make it physical. So anything that happens in that match, we're gonna experience this. So as a coach, it's my job to mentally talk to him and say, hey, we're ready, you're in shape, this is great, you're feeling amazing, as well as, hey, these are the situations we're going to deal with. I got to simulate and have some of our top training partners simulate these specific positions, the pressure that you're going to be under, getting slapped in the face, stalling out when you don't want to be in positions, being dirty, maybe, as you're coming, pushing into the rib cage, digging a thumb in positions to where, hey, anything that happens on that mat, we're going to have seen, and we're going to have seen it in worse. You're going to be more tired when you've been here in training. So anything that happens on the mat, we're prepared for. And again, you're going to fight world-class guys. Sometimes you're going to get caught. That's going to be part of the game. Sometimes you're going to get taken down. But you're going to be mentally and physically as prepared as you can be. And you're going to be ready to go no matter what they throw at you.
That makes sense. So then you didn't make the trip out to the West Coast.
Yeah.
How was the feel of, let's just put specific match, him and Kody Steele? You're watching the match. What were your thoughts as you're sitting there with no ability to coach?
I just thought that, and again, I think with Chris, the key is just, again, confidence. And I think if you watch that match, or he was going to play off the bottom with Kody, because Chris has one of the hardest guards to pass in the world, no-gi. He's just so flexible and he's hard to deal. And as the match went on and he felt like, Kody can't pass my guard, I'm feeling confident. And I could just watch Chris's confidence build.
I could too.
And you could tell once they tied up, he's like, oh, I belong here. And then when they went to overtime, it was just a matter of like, hey, you can wrestle with this guy. We've been putting in hard wrestling rounds every morning for months, and we train hard every morning. We're snapping each other's head to the mat every day. You can get in on him. And, as soon as he started shooting and putting Kody on the back foot, I saw the version of Chris I roll with and wrestle with every day. And then there's confidence that he's going to win. Mm-hmm. I had no doubt that he was going to win, unless they gave a bad decision just because they wanted Kody to go on in the tournament. But I think Chris made it pretty clear who was the better grappler in that match.
Definitely. And even, man, the seconds, the lead up to that match, I was standing right on the edge, and it was all of the team. It was all of Flow Grappling. Yeah. Everybody was sitting past the barricade. Everyone was sitting around. There are 3 cameras doing slow shots of Kody, and it's Chris and Jack standing by themselves. And just to be able to keep that confidence, it shows that the training was right. It shows that worked.
Well, we laughed about that. I was watching it, and then I'm watching the broadcast, and I'm watching the multiple streams Flow has. They have like the commentator, the Flow Zone, and they have just the matches by themselves. And in the Flow Zone, they're showing Chris and Kody, and then they're getting ready to go to overtime, and they cut away because they basically made a comment, Cody's going to win in the overtime because it's wrestling. And I'm like, that kind of disrespect. It's kind of like, hey, I understand Chris didn't have the name, but like, that match was even going into overtime.
He was winning on the feet.
Yeah. So then, and then that match happened, and then they never mentioned it again on the broadcast. So it's like, hey, that comes from being from a smaller gym, coming from a smaller team. Even now, somebody told me, and I didn't see it. They were discussing ADCC. I think Mo Jassim, the promoter of ADCC, was, and they were talking about replacements for 77 if somebody gets hurt. And we always have that I'd say, hey, if somebody gets hurt, maybe Chris gets the call. And I heard Mo said, well, if somebody drops out, I'll probably put Kody Steele in. It's like, Chris beat Kody in your rule set. And Kody hasn't grappled a fight since then. Mm-hmm. Chris has been tapping world-class guys. But that's just, what you have to deal with when you're not from a big name. And again, nothing against Kody or the Brazilian Fight Factory guys. They're not, it's not.
Of course.
They're great guys, awesome, phenomenal jiu-jitsu, great people. But like, Flow wants certain people to be on certain shows. Mm-hmm. And it's whether it's those guys or, guys from other gyms, you're always playing from a kind of spot back if you don't have that connection to the bigger gym or the bigger name, or you don't have somebody in your corner. But hey, if you just keep winning, they're going to have to listen to you. It doesn't matter where you train or what name's on your back or what name's on your gi. Well, if we win enough, people will care. So.
Hey guys, Josh here. Just wanted to interrupt the podcast really quick and tell you about something really exciting that we have going on at simplifyingjujitsu.com. Right now, my second ebook is available at simplifyingjujitsu.com. It is called The 3 Lenses. It is written about training method and, most importantly, what training methods will work for you as an individual. If you know how you best learn jiu-jitsu, you can start to build a routine and build a schedule to progress at jiu-jitsu way faster than you ever have before. And this ebook that is absolutely free, The 3 Lenses, will help you do that. Again, this is only available at simplifyingjujitsu.com/3. That is simplifyingjujitsu.com/3. Let's get back to the episode.
Let's talk a little more just broad, a little more big picture for you. You've got a new facility that's getting ready to open. What's kind of the timeline?
We don't have a full timeline yet because we built, my partner Jim, who's one of my purple belts, he decided he wanted to open a gym with us. We found a great building in Evanston right by Northwestern's football stadium. That was an old auto warehouse or auto repair shop. And we built the building, or we bought the building, and now we're completely gutting it, building a whole new from the ground up facility. It's going to be state of the art. We're going to offer Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, some striking, yoga, Pilates, personal training. We're going to have cryo chambers, saunas, cold plunges, recovery. We're going to have a juice bar in the front. We're going to have everything top of the line. Big locker rooms with multiple showers and custom-made lockers. We're going to have a big mat, elevated kind of AOJ style. We're going to have a rooftop garden that hopefully down the road we can do open mats on the roof, privates on the roof in the summer. It's real close to Lake Michigan. So it's going to be a 3-story, 10,000 square foot on each floor, huge, kind of state-of-the-art jiu-jitsu, wellness, martial arts center. So we're super excited. We're hoping maybe in a year or so it'll be ready. Obviously, a project like that, we had to do tons of planning, multiple approvals with the city, demo work. Now we're starting to get through into the actual construction. So it's all starting to get real. So it's super, super exciting for us.
So you were telling me last time I was in about the branding of the facility. How was that? How did that come about? How did that go?
So Jim, he contacted got in touch with a marketing team in London, and we're in this process where they've been interviewing. Chris is actually he's been helping us interview members, do market research. They've been doing market research on some jiu-jitsu stuff from all over the globe in terms of martial arts gym, Brazilian jiu-jitsu gyms, to figure out what people like, what they don't, getting a feel for the consumer. Because obviously I feel what is a good class structure and curriculum, but marketing a facility like this and not just the jiu-jitsu part, fitness, wellness. So they've been coming up with everything. We're in the process now of coming up with a gym name for the whole facility, branding. They're going to be doing things from as much as the fonts on our website, on our business cards, to what music plays in the lobby, to what color scheme we're going to have. They're working with our design team. It's like a next level kind of. I don't think there's ever been a martial arts gym in the United States that's ever been built or branded or marketed this way. So it's going to be kind of a new thing, and I'm super excited to see, how the team of both the marketing people, the design people, our team of martial arts people. We have a gym manager who's been working with gyms in Chicago for 25 years. All are coming together to kind of bring the best of what we do into some one kind of super kind of different and new high-end facility. So it's going to be. And the funny thing is, I don't think any of us really know what it's going to fully be like until we get into it. But we just know it's going to be something new and special for all our members and all the people in the community.
That's awesome, man. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, neither can I. I can't wait to host a bunch of big open mats and have some seminars for the community and just bring in friends from all over to come see and experience what we're building. So,
speaking of seminars, who are some of, I'm sure you've been to a lot, been around a lot of guys. Any favorites, any standouts when it comes to just learning?
So it's funny. I learn from everybody I train with. So we have a visiting brown belt or purple belt who does something cool. We just had Keith Krikorian in a seminar a few weeks ago at the gym, and Keith came and trained with us as well as taught a seminar. Keith's obviously one of the top grapplers in the world, getting ready for ADCC. So it was awesome to just kind of pick his brain about training and about how he focuses and how he does competition and how he gets prepared for different rule sets. Similar stuff we were talking about. He's always he's someone who was great to train with and bring in. We always try to have a kind of a good stable of tough guys coming in, whether it's just come in and train like you guys did today or for seminars. But over the years, man, I've had the ability to train with some really, really great people. Andre Galvao, Braulio Estima, Chris Howder, and you learn little things from all of them. Obviously from guys like Andre, you're picking up the highest level kind of competition techniques and strategies, and you train with a guy like Chris Howder, who's one of the original black belts from the United States, and he's just telling you kind of different ways to handle training as you get older, and different ways to how to as a coach to deal with students who don't want to be kids like Chris, or just doing to build that student base. So I try to pick things up as a coach, as a gym owner, as a competitor, as a training partner, and I try to pick things up from everybody. The last few years it's been a little harder with COVID and everything else that's going on. So I used to try to travel for more seminars, and we try to bring more people in. But luckily we've had not too long ago we had Travis Stevens in, we've had Claudia Davao in, and again you just pick up little differences and little things that everyone does, and adds little pieces to everyone's game and to our training mentality. Because a lot of them, with those high level athletes, like with a guy like Travis Stevens, how do you train for certain things? If coming from an Olympic judo background as opposed to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, what do you focus on, or what would you focus on for jiu-jitsu, being a black belt in that as well? So coming up with some different things from him. The technique he showed was great, but more understanding how his mentality of training and competition was more important for me than here's a couple cool throws and wrestle ups. And that's what I really try to pick up now as a coach, because that's my main goal. I want new techniques always, Keith showed this cool new variation of a heel hook. I can put that right in my game. But talking to him how he prepared for this big EBI tournament, or how he's preparing for ADCC is just as important, if not more, for me. Where my students, they're going to pick up those cool techniques because they don't have to worry about the training schedules. They just get to show up and have fun and do jiu-jitsu. I have to worry about those bigger picture things. So that's why I try to pick their brains with.
So we touched on it just a little bit when we're talking about the building. You're going to have cryotherapy, you're going to have cold plunges, saunas.
Yep.
What do you value when it comes to recovery, when it comes to rest, when it comes to rehab, things like that?
I'm like, myself personally, I think for everyone, not everyone gets it. I think the biggest thing is sleep. If you're not getting a good amount of sleep, you can do all the cryo, you can do all the sauna you want, your body's just not going to perform well. With all the stuff, I've read a few books on sleep and performance, and if you do not sleep well and do not rest well, everything else you're going to do, you're going to be mentally, physically, your recovery is going to be off. So I think sleep is the key, and it's the cheapest, easiest thing to do. I think, diet is important, especially as you get older, but, I've talked to a lot of high-level athletes, like Travis Stevens, who diet was very low on their list of things because they're like, hey, at a certain level, if you're a good enough athlete and the amount of calories you're burning, you just need fuel. And as long as you're getting fuel. And then beyond that, I think a combination of mobility work, doing the strength and conditioning and things to keep your body strong and flexible, and then recovery work, what you like. And some guys it's sauna, some guys it's ice and cold plunge, some guys it's cryo, some guy it's massage gun, some guy it's foam rolling. And you got to figure it out because I don't think there's a one size fits all for everybody. I have students who the sauna, it makes them feel amazing. I don't like the sauna. Sauna is a torture chamber. I fought weight for MMA. I don't want a sauna unless I have to. And even if I do, it's like, nope, this is not for me. Cold plunge, the same thing. We used to do cold plunges after MMA training. That's torture. I know it's good for you, but it almost makes me feel worse. But for a lot of my students, man, it gets them back on the mat. It gives them that extra little recovery boost. So I think we want to have those options for our athletes. So, hey, if you're a guy who sauna works for, we have sauna. If you're a guy who wants cryo or cold plunge, we have that. If you're smart and just get good sleep and combine that with some of those things, you're going to be the best athlete you can be. But again, more than anything else, sleep is the key. If you're not sleeping well, everything else is going to be secondary and it's not going to help you.
Hey guys, Josh here. I just wanted to interrupt this podcast with actually some bad news. I have good news, but I have bad news. And the bad news is our brand new instructional How to Learn Jiu-Jitsu is only going to be available until September 1st. On September 1st, we are putting it back into the vault. That will allow us to add more content to it and bring it back eventually. And we will bring it back, but it will not be available for purchase after September 1st. So if you want to check out How to Learn Jiu-Jitsu, this instructional by myself and my dad, where we look at all these different training methods that we have discovered over the last 15 years of training together, and we take you through an actual training session of ours and show you exactly how we progress at Jiu-Jitsu and exactly how we train Jiu-Jitsu. You can go to simplifyingjujitsu.com/learn to check out How to Learn Jiu-Jitsu. But don't forget, the sale on How to Learn Jiu-Jitsu only lasts until September 1st. If you've purchased it already, you have it forever. You don't have to worry about losing it. But if you have not purchased it yet, you have to go before September 1st. Again, this is only available at simplifyingjujitsu.com/learn. Let's get back to the episode.
Any tips on better sleep? Any tips on more sleep?
I do the simple things. I try to not have blue light too close to bed. So, if you're going to be looking at your phone or TV, bring the light down, go on your nightshade mode on your phone, try to read as opposed to watching TV, watching shows, go to bed early. So it takes me a while to fall asleep. So I get in bed earlier and slowly bring myself into sleep. Having a kid and being older, I'm not up very late anymore. I'm in bed by 9:30 every night so that if I get up at 5 to train at 7, I get my good 6-7 hours no matter what. But people just have to prioritize it. I don't want to stay up and do this, or I want to watch this video, or I want to do this. If you're going to go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and you expect to get up and train in the morning and get your multiple sessions in, again, if you're 22, you can get away with it, but you're not going to be performing at your peak. So you just get, there's sleep experts out there, read their books, listen to them. They know a lot more than I do on the subject. And if you follow that advice, it's going to only help you.
What about thoughts on rest days?
I feel everyone should have a rest day in their schedule. And depending on the intensity of your training. So I always take Sunday off. That's both for a physical and mentally. I need the break and I want to spend time with my wife and my son. I get to see them a lot during the week, but I want to have a day where I'm there for them. I'm dad and husband, not jiu-jitsu coach and in and out. But physically, you always need the rest day. One of the things I get on our athletes for is overtraining. That's something that I've seen in Chris and Jack Paul and a couple of my more competitive guys is they will push themselves because they're so tough and they want to train so much, to where I remember Chris was a purple belt and he was getting ready for Nogi Worlds. And he came in on a Friday night for open mat and we were rolling and I tapped him 2 times in a round. And it was like, never, and the way, it wasn't like I just caught him in a quick foot lock or something. It was like a way that I hadn't done in years on him. I'm like, you're feeling off. I think you're overtraining. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, you need to take a day or 2 off. You're going to compete in a week. And he took a day or 2 off and they won Nogi Worlds and had a great performance. And a few times throughout his career, I've just been, it was like, as a coach, I was like, you need to take a day or 2 off. Just don't train, don't go, just take a day. You need to rest. And now he's gotten much better at having his trainings broken down to where light days, heavier days, days off, just saying, hey, I'm not coming in for a day or 2. And, you got to listen to your body. I'm not a guy like you have to take Wednesdays off. Listen to your body. If you want to train 7 days in a row and then take a couple days off, or you want to train 3 days on, 1 day off, you have to listen to your body as an athlete because, I can't feel what he's feeling. And if I see it or I understand, like if I'm feeling his performance is off or anybody's performance is off, that's why I'll help him like, hey, take a day or you need to sit out some. But more it's keeping in mind that it's not about the quantity of your training, it's the quality of your training. So I think rest is important. But again, are you 22 or are you 42? The 42-year-old is going to need more. The 22-year-old, you can push yourself a little bit, but we can't be in the red the whole time. If we're in the red the whole time, you're going to always be hurt. You're going to always be dealing with nagging injuries. You're always going to be dealing with that just kind of mental and physical fatigue.
So kind of as you are looking at all these things as a whole, we talked about all these training methods, facility, everything. What do you value most out of those things when it comes to building your athletes up? What is kind of primary, most important thing?
I mean, I think it's just, the most important thing is just having a group of like-minded individuals who are going to show up to help each other and push each other. I mean, you can be in the fanciest facility or you can be in the Daisy Fresh laundromat. You can have, a bunch of young guys, a bunch of old guys, a bunch of higher belts, a bunch of lower belts. If you have a bunch of like-minded individuals who are friendly and care about each other and our team, and they're going to show up and push each other, and when this guy's getting ready for this tournament, we're focused on it, and this guy's getting ready for this tournament, we're going to focus on that. And, one of the things I always see sometimes is you see certain athletes, and we used to see this in MMA a lot. This guy has a fight coming up, so he's training. As soon as he doesn't have a fight coming up, he doesn't show up anymore. And he only shows up when he needs to. You have a group of guys and girls who will show up, and hey, I don't have any tournaments coming up, but I want to show up because this guy is going to compete. And we are all going to help each other, and you're going to give each other feedback. Man, you feel slow today. Man, I think you need a rest day. Or man, hey, mentally we're going to get behind you. Hey, you can beat this guy. You need to hear that from those voices, and are willing to say, hey, I'm going to sacrifice something in my training so I can give you rounds because you have this big fight coming up and your opponent's going to do this. That's the most important thing.
Is there an ideal size of that group?
I don't think so. I think it depends. Like, I'm sure there are gyms like at Atos, you might have 40 guys like that because you have so many professional grapplers and so many guys who want to be a world champ. Where, at a smaller gym, you might have 8 or 10 or 6. And as long as they're together and they can push themselves, they can have a great crew. Like in the mornings where we do our morning comp training, it's usually a group of anywhere from 6 to 15, depending who's in on the day. But there's that group of 8 to 10 that are almost always, there 2 or 3 days a week. And again, that if it's just us, we're producing world-class people and winning at the worlds and the world level. But as we add more and more people, and as more and more people kind of fall into the, hey, this is how you get good. Ideally in 2 years we might have 30. It's not. I don't think the number, as long as the people are like-minded, have the same goals, are there to help each other. It's not about just yourself. It's about making the group better, and the rising tide raises all ships. And, I've seen it with some of my blues and purple belts, to them just showing up. And all of a sudden they go to compete, and it's just like, they're like, man, these people are nowhere near what I see every morning. This is easy, and that's what we want.
So we were talking about it this morning. Every time somebody asks for hidden gem of jiu-jitsu, my answer is always Jeff Serafin.
Thank you.
Always. Has been since probably I was a blue belt. And always just enjoyed the way you teach, the way you approach jiu-jitsu. Is there anyone, if I say hidden gems of jiu-jitsu, is there anybody that comes to mind for you?
Well, I think there's a ton of really unsung kind of talented coaches and athletes in jiu-jitsu. And that like we were talking about, like so much of jiu-jitsu now in the social media flow grappling kind of mindset is who is the hot person. So like I feel like your coach Kyle and me have come up in jiu-jitsu a long time ago. And there was no real if you were a world champion, like if you're Marcel Garcia, you got coverage because you were winning ADCC. No one cared about anything beyond that. So now in this mindset, it's about, I see blue belts who have 100,000 followers on Instagram. And I'm like, what have they done? And not that they're bad people and not that they're not even showing good stuff. But like, I don't understand why they're getting this publicity or this kind of exposure. And, some of it's they built the brand themselves, but some of it's like they're just getting, flows covering their matches. And I'm like, I don't understand this. So when I look at, people that I think are hidden gems, like some of them are people I'm connected with. So for instance, my coach, Jack McVicker, Jack's a multiple 10-time no-gi world champion, black belt, all these other things. His skill level, his knowledge of, competitive jiu-jitsu is high as anyone that I've ever trained with. And, even though he's in the Midwest, most people in Chicago don't even know who he is. Yeah. Part of it's his own fault. He doesn't promote. He doesn't self-promote. He doesn't really engage in that kind of stuff. I've had guys ask him to have him on a podcast. He's like, why would I? He's just like, I don't want to do that. So people don't understand him. So that's like, there's those guys that I have the connection with. And I probably wouldn't know if he wasn't on my team. And then there's guys who like, I watch a little bit and I kind of see some of their stuff and I kind of watch how they teach and you're just kind of like, man, this guy really produces really good talent and really tough guys, and no one knows about him. So like just a local reference is Scott Houston up in 360 BJJ. Mak Jabbar, who I know you're going to have a podcast with later, that's his coach. Like I've known Scott on and off forever, and he always has a consistent group of tough guys and girls coming out of his gym. They're always well prepared for any tournament they do. Scott doesn't have a big name. I don't think a lot of people outside the Midwest know him. I don't hear a lot of people in the Midwest talk about him. But and he's not someone I've ever been trained with. I watch his guys and how they prepare and how they compete. And I'm like, that's a good coach. Whatever the sauce, whatever methodology is, it's really good because again, whether it's gi, whether it's no gi, whether it's masters, they always have tough people. And you're going to be in a battle when you fight a guy from 360. And again, that's the kind of thing. And it's like, I don't see a lot of social media engagement. I don't see a lot of that. And that's why people don't really know him. And even when his students do well, it's like no one's like, it's just a one-off. He's some tough guy. It's like, we had a guy 2 years before who was just as tough, so it can't be a one-off. These guys are really solid, and there's a lot of those throughout the Midwest. But again, they just don't get that pub that a lot of people do. So,
is there a way that they could get that publicity?
I mean, again, some of it is on anybody. Like if you push yourself on social media, if you're pushing yourself to get that exposure, I think you can get some. But again, it only hits that level. Like again, for instance, right now, like we're trying to get Chris big fights like on Flow Grappling. We I'm biased, but he should be fighting on Who's Number One. He should be
totally
fighting
agree.
So I'm always trying to tag them, put those things in there. And if that's going to help or not, who knows? But I think some to the point, it's like if you want to get that main world-class exposure, a lot of it's going to be luck. A lot of it's, like the Pedigo submission fighting guys, Heath Pedigo. I've known Heath since 20 years, and I love seeing what he's built and love seeing what he's done. And again, it's not like Heath was out there trying to promote himself. People just found him, and they found the story, and they found it. They're like, man, this is endearing. This is great. And that's exactly, he built this thing that's amazing. And he got this publicity, and it blew up to a point where I don't think him or the guys ever thought it was going to be this way. And to the point where I think some guys resent how much attention they're getting. But it's like, hey, that's not what Heath's goal. Heath didn't control that, Flo did. And it's like, he's still the same great person he was before he got the exposure. So some of it's going to be luck. You need someone to stumble on you and your students and your story. And then some of it's you got to push yourself to be exposed. You got to kind of push yourself to the front of the line. I think a balance of that, you hopefully will find that. But again, it's good to have hidden gems. We need those guys out there that are producing world-class talent and no one pays attention to, especially as a Midwesterner. I love to see these guys coming from the Midwest from small unsung gyms and being like, oh yeah, we can compete with Atos. We can compete with all these different teams. Because again, it doesn't matter what coast you're on or how famous your instructor is. If we put in the work, world champions can come from anywhere.
If somebody is listening, somebody is excited about it and says that, I want that to be me, but they don't have they don't feel like they have the right crew that we were talking about. How would somebody maybe go about finding that?
Well, I mean, obviously, find people in your area who are having that kind of energy. Like, one of the things I'm big on is cross training. We have people coming in to train with us from different gyms all the time. And part of it is we want to build that kind of camaraderie with other gyms, because again, some gyms you're just going to be stuck. Hey, this is a smaller gym. We don't have that kind of crew. We don't have people who want to be world champs. We don't have people who want to come in and drill or positionally spar the way we do. So part is you can be the person to start that culture. Because again, somebody in your gym has to start it. It doesn't just happen. It's not like all of a sudden you open a gym and you have 12 guys who are great training partners. Like I had to build this kind of environment, this atmosphere in our gym, and by drilling and motivating and telling these guys who showed that spark or showed that interest that they wanted to be really good, and then they kind of built into it, and they kind of buy into the system, and it starts to snowball because you see 2 or 3 guys who are coming in early to drill and train this way, and then the guys say, man, Chris is getting good, Jack Paul's getting good, man, Mel, she's beating all the girls up at tournament. All of a sudden, more and more people do it, and you can start that. So you got to be the one to start that if you don't have it at your gym. I have a kid from Peoria, Blake, who comes up and trains with us, a really tough blue belt. And the Peoria gym he's at, one of our teammates' gyms, crazy tough gym. They have 20 black belts. They've been training for 25 years, a lot of these guys. But a lot of them are older, have jobs, have multiple kids. They can't train at 7 in the morning. They can't train 3 times a day. You know, they're teaching classes, they're coming in. And I told them, hey, you have all this knowledge there. Take the knowledge you're learning in your classes, but then, hey, you need to be the one as the younger guy who has the more time to come in and spur it. Say, hey, let's get together and drill before class. Let's together and have a comp training. And it doesn't have to be the formal class, but you say, hey, if you want to win and you want to make that group, you need to lead by example. You need to kind of show them. And hey, when you start beating up all the other blue belts, you start beating up the high belts, and you guys are, man, how are you getting so good? Come drill, come train. Let's build this, and watch what Jeff's guys are doing. Watch what these guys at Pedigo are doing, because they're all doing similar stuff. We're just doing it our own way. But again, it's not, showing up to class is great, and you're going to get better, but you're not going to be world champion if you just show up to class, train for an hour, do a little rowing, and go home. You're going to learn basic jiu-jitsu, so you need to create that culture. And if you need to, reach out to somebody who you know is finding that culture, and even if they're 100 miles away, go up and train for a weekend, talk to them on Instagram, talk to them on, and say, hey, what are some things I can start doing? And most of us, man, I've had multiple guys come from other gyms, guys who coach at other places, who come and do privates with me to help build that. And I'm always open to help. I want the jiu-jitsu community to get better. I want training to be better. I want everyone in jiu-jitsu to have, better access to smart and well-prepared training, as opposed to, here's an amount of skip today, and I'm going to show you a choke from the back, and I'm going to show you a throw, and then we're just going to roll. And it's like, man, that's not how you're going to learn jiu-jitsu at a high level. And if that's what you're getting, not that that's, hey, you should quit that gym, but it's say, hey, let's change the culture and let's make it a little bit more, high echelons that we expect more, and we're going to make everybody better.
I really love it. That's a terrific answer. We're getting closer to the end. I always like to ask, what is the best, or what springs to mind when I ask you, what's the best piece of jiu-jitsu advice that you've ever gotten?
Man, that's hard. I've had a lot. A lot of people have, told me many great things, but one of the things that, when I started training, I was out of shape, 15-year-old kid, never grappled before, and after I fell in love with jiu-jitsu from my first class, and then I was a kid who just showed up every day because I was the worst guy in the gym. I was in the worst shape, and I was just going to train harder than everyone because I knew they were all better than me, they're all better shape than me. So I just came in and tried to grind, because I figured that's the only way I'm going to get good. And I had a training partner who I don't even think trains anymore. He just kind of looked at me one day and said, don't forget, this is supposed to be fun. And even though you want to be a world champion, even though you want to be the best in the world, even though you want to catch up to everyone, if you lose the fun aspect of the sport, that's why you fell in love with it, you're not going to love jiu-jitsu the way, and sometimes I see this with some of our competitors. Sometimes they make it so much of a job, and you have to. If you're getting ready for a big tournament, you got to show up, you got to put in the time, you got to do the reps. Some mornings you don't feel like wrestling at 7 a.m. But if you're getting ready for the tournament, you do. But at the same time, make it fun. This has to be fun. You got to hang out with your buddies. You got to bullshit with them. You got to have fun with them. And if you got to have fun doing jiu-jitsu, sometimes, try things. And if you get guard pass that day, it's not the end of the world. Make jiu-jitsu fun when you're training as a competitor. And when you're the guy who comes in and only does jiu-jitsu for fun, sometimes train to get better. You need to keep that balance of jiu-jitsu is both fun and jiu-jitsu's, I'm trying to be a champ. And if you don't keep that balance and you're only trying to be big and grind, you're going to burn out. If you only, I'm just going to have fun, I'm never going to try, you're always going to be a limit yourself.
Any tips for making jiu-jitsu fun if you feel like it has not been for a while?
So one of the things I always focus on when I'm training, especially if it's more for myself as opposed to my students, but what's nice is training for my students that does this organically, is do different things. Like if all you do is, man, I'm a half guard guy, so I'm going to play half guard every single day, every round, it's going to become a grind. All your training partners know how to stop it. Then you're just we're kind of locking each other in. So I do things a lot where I'll work, for instance, last time I was really focused on gi, I was doing a lot of the matrix. A lot of matrix, because it was a new thing that I was playing with. So then I'm having fun with it. It's a new tool. It's a new thing. And then I'll work on that for 6 weeks. And then not that I'm not going to just give up, but then I'm going to say, hey, as opposed to working the matrix, I'm now going to start looking, man, I haven't played collar sleeve, so I'm going to play collar sleeve. Where I'm always trying to change what my my focus is. Or, hey, we're going to do nogi now. So we've been a nogi block. I've been focusing a lot on wrestling. Okay, I've been focusing a lot on 50-50 for leg locks. Now I'm going to focus on double outside ashi. To where I'm always making myself do something new. So I'm learning new tools, new things. I got to study a new player because, like, man, for 50-50, this is what I was doing a lot of work on. But, man, double outside ashi, I'm not as good. I got to watch some tape. I got to do some drilling there. I'm going to get my guard passed. I'm going to get my back taken. I got to come up with ideas. All this blue belt's giving me problems because it's a new position, as opposed to, okay, I'm doing what I always do. I'm just keep doing the same heel hook. It's the same boring grind. We're just hand fighting for 4 minutes. Oh, I went hand fighting at the heel hook. Jiu-Jitsu gets old that way. If you're doing new things all the time, and especially things that fit in your game, you're going to always have, that kind of, there's something new there. There's a new tool I got to learn, a new thing I got to learn. So
how do you balance like that focus? Is it weeks at a time that you say, okay, for the next 6 weeks, I'll do it? Is that? I
try to block things out for me because that's how my mind works. Like, I like to say, okay, I'm going to do 6 weeks because I feel 6 weeks, if I'm doing it like in both my drilling and my rolling, that's going to give me a good tool. And then sometimes I'm like, man, I'm really loving this, or I'm really just scratching the surface. I might make that an 8-week or a 10-week block for what I'm working on. And something else might be like, man, it's great, but it's not hitting me. I might cut out after 3 or 4 weeks. Because again, these are not hard, fast things where if I don't put 6 weeks on this, I'm gonna lose. But I have to listen to myself as both a competitor or coach, as my body. So I'm always just trying to, like, I think 6 weeks is a kind of good balance point where if you put 6 weeks of work into a position or a movement, you're going to have a good feel for that, and you're going to be able to add it to your game. And some of it, after 6 weeks, this probably isn't going to be my game. I'm going to throw it to the wayside, but now I have better experience. So if I need to feed that energy to a student, I have it, or something like this is going to become part of my game. I'm going to continue to integrate it and figure out how I can combine it with this other part of my game that's already going to fit with it. And then again, that just expands everything I do. So that if I'm rolling with my main training partners, like one of my students, Jake Paul, he plays a similar like half guard style game I do. With me and him literally just going to play top and bottom half guard against each other. It's just kind of running our head into a wall and nothing's going to happen. But I'm always trying to, like, okay, I'm going to come up with new ways to deal with this half guard. I'm not going to play my half guard the same to him so that he's getting expanded looks and it makes both our half guards better, and it's going to make it fun as opposed to just like, here's another 6 minutes of boring stalling each other out from half guard.
That makes sense. Jeff, appreciate you being on. Always learn so much when I get to talk to you.
It was great to be on.
Anything you want to say to finish?
Thanks for listening. Anybody's ever in the Chicagoland, Evanston area, come up and train with us, Serafin Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We're currently in a gym in Skokie. We'll be moving to our new spot in Evanston. And again, anybody who wants to, figure out a better way to train, methodology we're talking about, always reach out, come train with us at the gym, see how we train, reach out to me. I've been lucky that I've had a lot of people throughout the country over the last year reach out. People have seen what some of our students are doing and wanting to know more about how we do things. Man, again, nothing's a secret here. We want to make everyone's jiu-jitsu better. We want to cross-train. We want to have more friends. We want to have more places we can go train across the country. So come on out. And thanks to Show Your Roll, my sponsor, always hooking us up. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, if somebody wanted to follow you on social media, where would they do it?
Serafin BJJ on Instagram. Check us out. That we're always posting some cool stuff. Following us up there. You can also jump on our Facebook, Serafin Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or follow me, Jeff Serafin, on Facebook. Those are probably the best ways to reach us.
All right. Thank you for being on, Jeff.
Thanks, Josh.
And that is the interview. I hope you guys liked that one. I really love getting to talk to Jeff. I always feel like I get a little bit of brain melt, but he really simplifies stuff. The reason I get brain melt is because I ask him like 50 questions in that episode. But what's fun is when I talk to Jeff normally, that's how our conversations are. Just me throwing out questions to him. And he's one of those guys, I almost feel like these type of episodes with him are very similar to the John Thomas or the Sean Williams episodes, where I just have, okay, I'm going to ask this guy all these questions, and he is so clear and concise that I get to go into a ton of questions. And so that was really fun to be able to do that with Jeff. Thank you again for being on the show, Jeff. But let's look forward. This Saturday, we will be bringing back Suck Less Saturday. I haven't done it in 2 weeks. I competed 2 weeks ago and was just getting back into town last week. Was actually recording more podcasts last week. And so I have a super special one for you guys in like a month's time, probably. But with Suck Less Saturday this Saturday, instead of answering a listener question, I thought I would just do an update for you guys and let you guys know how the tournament went, how the pretty much how the whole trip, the whole week long of training in Chicago was. I have a few really fun stories from the road that I'll share with you guys, and a few lessons, of course, and we'll just have fun with it. And so I hopefully will talk to you guys on Saturday, as long as you guys keep listening to the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. That is all I have for you. I hope today's episode was good. Hope you guys enjoyed my conversation with Jeff. I hope if you're ever in Chicago that you check Jeff out. He is a blast to train with. Had so much fun training with he and his team. And most importantly, I hope that today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys. Hey guys, Josh here again. I noticed that the podcast is over, but you are still listening, so you might still be in search of some really good free content that the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show provides. So if that is the case, if you guys are looking for some solo episodes where you can learn more about efficiency and effectiveness in Jiu-Jitsu, I would highly recommend 2 episodes. The first is episode 111, and that is on blitzing. It's this idea of pacing that most people, even black belts, don't think about. And then episode 129 is on designated winner. It is this new training concept that we have been doing at my team. We've been talking about a lot on the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. I've actually been traveling the country and teaching this training method. And so as we continue to grow the show, I think that is going to be the episode that I push most people to. It's episode 129, designated winner, learning to master the flow. This is kind of the missing piece between drilling and flowing and positional sparring. You kind of get to combine all 3 of those things with designated winner and get the effects of all 3 of those things with designated winner. Also, if you guys are interested, if you're looking for some more deep dives into specific things in jiu-jitsu, you can always go to simplifyingjujitsu.com, where I have all of my instructionals, all of my dad's instructionals, and actually a few from my coach Kyle Watson, my friend Nick Sanders, John Prine, really some amazing black belts instructing you at simplifyingjujitsu.com. Also at simplifyingjujitsu.com, I have a free ebook for you guys. It is called The 3 Lenses. It is the 3 lenses that people look through to learn jiu-jitsu. Most of us only ever see or learn from one of the lenses, and simply by adding the extra perspective of the other 2, you will triple how quickly you get good at jiu-jitsu, especially how well you understand jiu-jitsu. And that is what this free ebook really provides, is a very good way for you to understand the language, understand what's happening, understanding why you are getting better, or more importantly, why you're not getting better. And you can use this free ebook and it will help you diagram what you want to, getting to the goals you want to get to. And so that is all I have for you guys. Make sure to check out Designated Winner. Make sure to check out everything that I have at simplifyingjujitsu.com, whether it is free or it is paid. You can also follow me on Instagram at the Josh McKinney. If you ever have any questions or comments, or you want to send a suggestion for a Suck Less Saturday episode, you can email me, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com. I read all those emails. Sometimes they get repetitive, so I combine 5 or 6 emails to be a Suck Less Saturday episode. But keep those emails coming so I can keep producing great jiu-jitsu content, and I can keep hearing from the people who actually enjoy the show and want to keep hearing the jiu-jitsu content that I produce. Have a great day, guys. I hope this last little few minute clip helps you suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day.